This is a publication from the soysefardi.org portal.
So today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible story from the 16th century. It's got a bit of everything. It's part political thriller, part testament to incredible faith. We're talking about the tale of Rabbi Abraham de Castro and what came to be known as the Purim of Egypt.
Okay, so when you hear the word Purim, your mind probably jumps straight to Queen Esther, right? To Mordechai and the villainous Haman in ancient Persia. It's the story of Jewish salvation. But what if I told you that's just the most famous one? What if that model of deliverance has been relived and re-celebrated by communities all over the world for centuries?
Yeah, let's get into that idea, the tradition, of a community commemorating its own unique deliverance.
It's exactly what it sounds like. The story of Esther and Mordechai basically created a blueprint for celebrating local miracles, a tradition called a community Purim. Just try to imagine it. Your own community is facing a real existential threat. A modern-day Haman shows up, threatening everything. And then, at the very last second, you're saved. You'd want to remember that day forever, wouldn't you? Well, that's precisely what these communities did.
And believe me, this wasn't some rare one-off thing. You had communities from Castile and Zaragoza back in the 14th century, all the way to Frankfurt in the 17th century. All of them set up their own local Purims. Each one marks a specific day when their community was pulled back from the absolute brink of disaster. And you know, this wasn't just some folk tradition. It had serious rabbinic backing. The great Rabbi Moshe Alashkar, who actually lived during the time of our story, he confirmed it. He said a community could absolutely establish a Purim for them and their descendants forever. This made it a living, breathing part of Jewish tradition. Which brings us to our main event, the incredible story of Purim Mitsrayim, which means the Purim of Egypt, which all went down in the bustling city of Cairo.
So let's set the scene. It's 1523. The Ottoman Sultan, the famous Suleiman the Magnificent, he appoints this guy, Ahmed Pasha, to be the governor of Egypt. Big mistake. Pasha had his own plans. He decides to rebel and declare himself the new sultan. And what's his first move? He orders the head of the mint, a respected Jewish leader named Rabbi Abraham de Castro, to start minting coins with his name on them, a clear act of treason. Suddenly, Rabbi de Castro is faced with a totally impossible choice.
So here's our villain, Ahmed Pasha. The historical sources are pretty clear about this guy. He wasn't just some rebel. He was corrupt, power-hungry, and totally willing to burn everything to the ground just to get a throne for himself.
And here's our hero. Rabbi de Castro wasn't just some government official. He was a leader of his people. And instead of going along with treason, he makes an incredibly daring choice. He flees Cairo and takes on the dangerous journey all the way to Istanbul to warn the real sultan.
Now, Rabbi de Castro's loyalty was about to save an empire. But in the short term, it put his entire community in mortal danger. Pasha, absolutely enraged by this betrayal, turned all of his fury on the Jews of Cairo.
So what does he do? He slaps this crippling tax on the community, an amount so huge it was literally impossible to pay. And he makes it crystal clear. Failure to deliver the money means the death of every single Jew in the city.
And then, on the 17th of Adar, the deadline comes and goes. Pasha makes his final terrible decree. The entire Jewish community of Cairo is to be executed. Just like in the story of Esther, a day was set for their total annihilation. The community, completely trapped and helpless, could do nothing but gather in their synagogues to fast and to pray for a miracle.
And a miracle is exactly what they got. Just when all hope seemed completely lost, the whole situation turned on a dime.
The turnaround was just stunningly fast. We're talking literally the day after the death sentence was issued, soldiers loyal to the Sultan stormed Pasha's palace. Now, Pasha managed to escape, but he was a fugitive. And soon after, the full force of the Sultan's army, sent because of Rabbi de Castro's warning, arrived. They hunted Pasha down, and just 11 days after he'd condemned the entire community, the tyrant himself was captured and executed.
And let me tell you, this wasn't some small mission. Sultan Suleiman sent an army of 12,000 soldiers to crush this rebellion. That just shows you how seriously the Sultan took this threat and how absolutely vital Rabbi de Castro's warning really was.
So the day Pasha was executed, the 28th of Adar, became this day of immense joy and relief. The community, which had been facing its own end just days earlier, was saved. They immediately declared that day Purim Mitsrayim, the Purim of Egypt, a holiday to be celebrated forever.
But hold on, the story doesn't end there. Rabbi de Castro's bravery had this lasting impact that you can actually still see with your own eyes today.
For his incredible loyalty, Rabbi de Castro was seriously promoted by the Sultan. I mean, he went from being the head of the mint in Egypt to being appointed the manager of the royal treasury for the entire empire. And he used this new influence for the good of his people.
And this leads to the most incredible part of the legacy. As a sign of his gratitude, Sultan Suleiman gave Rabbi de Castro a monumental task: to oversee the construction of the massive stone walls that still surround the old city of Jerusalem today. I mean, think about that for a second. The very walls that millions of people visit every single year are a direct result of one man's courageous decision back in Cairo.
The core details for this incredible story of the Purim of Egypt are drawn from the account published over on halajah.org.
And for any of you who want to dig a little deeper, the historical events around Ahmed Pasha's rebellion and Sultan Suleiman's rule are really well documented. You can cross-reference them in major historical works like these.
We really hope this explainer has shed some light on a lesser-known but amazing chapter of history, brought to you from the research and publications of soysefardi.org.
And all this really leaves us with a final thought. The Purim of Egypt is such a powerful reminder that history is made up of countless local stories of crisis and salvation. And it kind of makes you wonder, what stories of survival in your own family or your own community's history are worth preserving and celebrating for generations to come?